That was brilliant. I have just finished recording episode number 280 with Melody Tseng, an incredible woman, incredible human. Her story really from being a child all the way through in the industry, what she's achieved, really an interesting, fun podcast. So I hope you enjoy it just as much as I have recording. Leading Ladies podcast is brought to you by Lightswitch. Please join me in taking a few moments to watch their fantastic video.
Lightswitch is a collective of award-winning lighting, media, and visual designers committed to changing how people experience the world. For more than 30 years, we have been practicing pragmatic design. At Lightswitch, we believe it's our responsibility to keep our clients' creative, logistical, and financial objectives in balance. Lightswitch's range of expertise is extensive, from working one-on-one with clients and artists to multidisciplinary teams collaborating on all visual aspects of temporary and permanent projects. Lightswitch creates unforgettable moments and powerful experiences. We celebrate our team, clients, and all of our industry's diverse and talented people. As a part of our commitment to inclusion in all aspects of entertainment and experience design, Lightswitch is proud to sponsor Leading Ladies.
So what has been happening in the last, well, it's actually been 6 weeks since I've recorded a podcast, because the last podcast came out at the very first week in October, and this now is coming out at the end of November. I've still been very busy with Geezers of Gear, of course. Marcel seems to be fully booked every single week, which is fantastic. We are organising the LDI Dining with Dinosaurs event, which is going to be really, it's going to be something special. The dinos that we have on the guest list, they're incredible. And the whole event from start to finish has been a pleasure to organise. And I'm extremely lucky, and I will be attending LDI this year. It is, in fact, my very first LDI. And so, I'm very much looking forward to that. So my very good friend, Tanya Collier, she was going to come on the podcast, but I had a very short window to catch her. Sadly, we only managed to catch up for a quick WhatsApp call. She just finished working on Coldplay, and she was heading straight out to China to be a band chef. I really want to hear her story. So hopefully she'll be coming back on as soon as things calm down in her world. She's been a band chef for years now. I can't recall just off the top of my head how long, but she's been a band chef for ages. The training, everything about her makes her a very special and unique human being. She just finished the Red Hot Chili Peppers tour as their private band chef. Of course, that would be working with Faye. She said everything was just amazing working with the band, the crew. She's also been the band's chef for quite some time now. And in the midst of doing all of that, so a hectic tour, she started her own catering company, the Rolling Stoves Catering. I couldn't be more proud of her. It's an absolutely unbelievable achievement to basically have the balls to do it. So I really can't wait to have her on the podcast, chat about how she got into the industry, the legends that she's cooked for, maybe the dramas, maybe not the dramas, I don't know, but she really is going to be amazing. I do have a long list of lovely ladies that would like to come on the podcast as well. Whether it be before the end of the year, I'm not too sure, but for sure, obviously, it'll be next year. Everyone's been very busy and now obviously winding down. We've got Thanksgiving this week. We also have Christmas coming up, then it's New Year, we've got LDI. So there's lots of things to try and connect all us ladies together to do it. But for sure, we will do. Now, I approached this next guest. It was probably about 4 months ago. And it was actually to get her to come onto Geezers of Gear. And no sooner had she shown a little bit of interest in that, I had come up with this idea with myself for leading ladies. So I approached Melody again and I said, look, would you like to come on this new podcast with me, leading ladies? Well, she was thrilled. She was like, I'd love to. We've been chatting backwards and forth. I've been finding out about basically her history, her experience, her everything within our industry. And really, she is an incredible woman. I've had so much fun just now. We both were nervous. I know it's silly, but we both were nervous. But as soon as we just started chatting, and it really was like I've known her for ages. I really hope you enjoy, this next episode of Leading Ladies. Basically, Melody is a creative producer at Live Redesigned. Melody graduated from school with a background in art and fashion. Melody started out working as a production translator, which, by the way, is just like so cool. And she was there for 4 years in Taiwan before going basically on tour for over 10 years as production coordinator and VIP sponsor with Live Nations. She's been on tour for artists like Justin Timberlake, Maroon 5, Janet Jackson, Ariana Grande, and Billie Eilish. So the list really is awesome. But then during the pandemic, Melody was basically, at a loose end, as we all were. And then she saw an advert in LinkedIn, or on LinkedIn, should I say. And it was by Nick Whitehouse from Fireplay. And the ad just said, this is me. This is me. And basically she applied for the position. Nick was like, yes, 100%, it's you. So basically she has learned so much. She's moved up really quickly. She's put all her effort into everything. She's put her love, her passion. And basically now she's the creative producer, creative director. She's created for Demi Lovato in 2022, Romeo Santos in 2023, and most recently as the art director, set designer for Alanis Morissette, which is this past summer. Really, absolutely incredible achievement, fantastic lady. So please welcome Melody to the Leading Ladies podcast. Hello, Melody, and welcome to Leading Ladies podcast.
Hi, Sarah.
It's always strange because we've just had a conversation about doing the podcast, and we're both actually nervous, like for some reason, but we haven't also met each other. We had a brief chat yesterday, but we've never met each other. And when Melody said yes to coming on the podcast, I was thrilled because you really have got an amazing story. So,
oh, thanks.
Yeah,
but I'm nervous about everything all the time, so this is normal for me.
I think it's my boss Marcel. He's like, just don't be nervous, just relax, be yourself. But I always find that if it's a healthy nervous, if whenever I do something new, I'm always a little bit apprehensive, a little bit nervous, and then it's all okay, or like most of the time. So where are you now? Let's start with that. Where are you now?
I am in New York City right now, so it's early in the morning. It's nice and cold outside. It's Saturday, and it's a lovely day to do a podcast.
Exactly. Well, I'm in Crete, and the sun is shining, but it's a little bit cloudy today. Winter's finally here. I haven't been to New York for years, but I do love it. I do love New York.
Does it get cold where you are? I've
Yes,
never
we
been to
do.
Greece, so I
Yeah, on this island we do get snow, so we do get snow on the top,
oh
which is fantastic. A couple of years ago, I actually went skiing. People are like, "You went skiing in Crete?" But when have you ever skied before?
I have, yeah. I'm horrible, but yes, I have skied before.
So I said to my husband, I said, like, let's go skiing because I've just something on like a tick list. I wanted to ski on like the highest mountain here. So when we actually got there, I knew there wasn't any ski lifts. Like I knew there wasn't, but I still
So
kind of
how
had.
do you get to the top?
Yeah, well, the thing you have to walk.
So
But
you
even
ski down, and then every time you want to go back up for another round, you have to hike back up with your skis?
yeah, so it's not the
Oh.
most pleasurable. We also didn't go very far. I had a fee. I thought that would be like skidoos, which they were, but they were all privately owned. So
Okay.
you really like. I mean, bless my husband, he'd never skied before, and obviously we weren't going to the top, but just the lessons he had. He's like, this is hard work. Like, so he's trying to carry. You know how when you first like learn, like you don't know how to hold them anyway, and they're
Yeah.
walking up the mountain, the nursery slope, and he's like, this is really hard. I was like, my love, it's not normally this hard, but well done for trying. Funnily enough, we've
Well, he's
never
a
been
good
to do it
sport. That's
again.
nice.
Yeah, exactly. So what I wanted to, let's start at the beginning. Now, you were born into this industry, literally. So please, like,
Literally.
yeah, literally. So please tell me all about that. Like, your mom, like,
So, was born in the U.S. And my mom is a singer, but in most of the Chinese-speaking countries, she's pretty well known. And yeah, I guess it was just being born in the industry was a very interesting upbringing. I remember a lot of empty arenas as a kid and recording studios. There's a lot of photos of me in my, I guess, the baby carrier on top of the speakers, or like, with my mom on the other side of the glass in the recording studio. And yeah, it was just, I kind of grew up with that, like, as a background. Um, and just, I mean, the interesting thing was, so growing up a lot between the US and Asia, and spending a lot of time when I was much younger, like 3 or 4, 5, 6, 7 years old, like much younger. Being in Hong Kong, like you're kind of in this bubble of, like, there was a lot of what we call second generation. So a lot of celebrities, and singers who had kids, and we all kind of grew up in that circle, I guess.
yeah,
And there was a lot of eyes watching of, like, well, what is this person going to amount to? Are they going to become actors like their parents? Are they
yeah,
going to become singers? Are they going to follow in their footsteps? And there was just a lot of pressure watching us kids grow up. And
yeah.
I was lucky that I was born in the US and I spent time in Asia, mostly, around holidays and vacation times when my mom would bring me back. But I grew up in the United States. And I think it gave me a much more grounded and more, I don't want to say normal because it wasn't completely normal, but it was, I think I was a bit more removed from that in the United States, more than if I had stayed in Asia and been, like, immersed in that lifestyle the whole time. And so my mom was constantly touring, and I was home alone a lot. And so as a kid, I was very much into art, drawing, quite reclusive actually, and just really kept to myself. And my mom had quite a tough time of it. She's a tough cookie. Like, she really, they grew up poor family, and she was able to make a really successful career out of singing and doing that. And so she really didn't want me to have too much of an interest in the limelight, or she hoped that I wouldn't want to become a singer or
So that's
kind
quite
of walk
amazing
that.
in a way that she didn't want you to follow her in that footstep. So you didn't have any pressure, like whether you was going to be a singer. I mean, did she put you through like singing classes and acting classes? Did you go through that route as well, or?
No, I actually never had any singing classes. I never had any acting classes or anything like that. Actually, there was a lot of art class,
Okay, that's
which
cool.
is great. And I think, honestly, as a kid, it was a little bit chaotic, like
Yeah.
being constantly traveling, being between nannies, family, and being with her. And then, there was never really like a normal schedule of life. It was just kind of like, hey, we're picking up and we're going, or we're doing this, or, oh, you're staying with this person, or you're going to go and do that. Or, hey, I want you to perform this song with me. So learn it and let's just go ahead and do it.
Well,
It was very
you
much
know,
like, I think.
I've already stalked you and I saw the video. I
Oh
love.
God, I'm like, I want to like cover my whole face now.
Yeah, but even now, okay, it's not what you not what you wanted to do, but or even like that wasn't where your heart was to be on the stage, but you wanted to design the stage, you wanted to design the sets, but like you've done that, like that's just so cool. Like
Well,
you're
it's so weird because like I don't think even I was so young during all of those times that like I don't even know if I wanted to. I mean, I think there was a certain amount of like, oh, this is kind of cool, and like clearly everybody else around me thought it was really cool too. Like all my
yeah.
friends were like, "Oh my God, that's huge." And I'm like, "Yeah, well, not really excited about it, but I'll do it." And it was all very surreal, I think. Like I just don't think that it really hit me that this was different, that this was
Yeah, it was
anything out of the ordinary.
yeah, because again, you were in a crib on a speaker from a baby, and like most people, you go to a like venues, and like, but you were actually there. You was the artist's daughter. You were treated as like real VIP. Um, so like that's just like amazing. And you said like when you got into art, obviously that came like naturally to you, to get into art. You sort of graduated in fashion.
Well, so, my mom was like, I don't care what you do. You just need to have an education and a degree in something. So,
Okay.
and I had expressed to her that like, there was interest in the industry and music and things like that. Like eventually, like in high school, mostly I just honestly didn't really know what I wanted to do. I just had little interest in all different types of things. And so, when she was like, okay, well, apply to college, do your thing. And I applied to multiple different things. I think I applied to like culinary school. I did like regular public universities. I just had I was just throwing mud against the wall and hoping something was going to stick. And when I got the acceptance letters of the couple of schools that I was hoping that I could go to, it was very different. And it just was very easy and immediate that I was like, okay, cool. I'll go to New York, go to design school. If I can like draw and do art and do that, for the next 4 years when I figure out my life, then great. And when I got there, it was really interesting because design school was not art school at all. Like I was thinking that I was going to be painting and doing sculptures and drawing and fun things all day. And design school kicked my ass
Oh,
for
really?
4 years.
Okay, so what did you find that like really, yeah, well, in your words, kicked your ass? Like, what was the
It
what made that?
it really changed the way that I thought about the world, which
Okay.
like everything is designed, everything is thought of as part of a user experience, right? Like
Yeah.
you have a problem, and through design, how do you marry form and function to make it make sense for whoever is experiencing it, or the user of the experience, the product, the clothing, whatever it is that you're designing. And it was really hard because art is expressive. Art is subjective to the person. Art can be really anything as long as it's more emotion based. Whereas design is really, I think, more meant to solve a problem or maybe try to answer a question.
Yeah.
And and so it was really, really hard to kind of turn my brain into like, okay, you have clients, you have people that you design for now. Like there is a purpose to what it is that you are creating, as opposed to just something for your own enjoyment or for your own self-expression.
Yeah, I never really looked at that like that, but you're completely right. Yeah,
So,
completely.
When I, 4 years of that, and I realized I'm like, I didn't really like fabric shopping. Yeah. I didn't really care too much about the clothes that people were going to wear. I didn't really want to have my own line. Yeah. I really enjoyed like the experience of someone watching a show, like what the music would be like, what the clothes would look like, how they would be lit, what kind of feelings that was going to evoke. And so even my thesis project for graduation was centered around music. And so I just kind of knew after I graduated, I'm like, I don't think fashion is really going to be the industry that I'm going to end up in. But I've learned a lot.
But I love what, because you sent me a few like little bits to like read up on you and stuff. And one thing was like, you realized that you weren't interested, like you said, in the designing of the clothes, but you was looking at the runway and how it was lit and how you could design it. Now, so that, you had that, you'd found yourself really. You just then needed to take it to the next step. And I just
kind of feel like, well, I mean, looking back on my life now, like actually, I haven't really talked about it in this kind of timeline in a very like, well, I don't really know if ever really to someone that I've never even met in person. But like it really is. I feel like I've like lost myself and found myself multiple times, and it's still like a continuing journey because, yeah, like even though my mom never really encouraged going into the industry, she was just, it was like, okay, I had two different worlds that I had to move between. And then now same thing with my art, like between design and art, you're just like, okay, how do I figure out where I fit in between these two things? And then eventually also touring, you're trying to figure that out as well. So,
but I suppose maybe for your mom, especially, I'm going to say, back in the day, it was different, especially for if you weren't going to be the artist, there weren't that many females behind the scenes. So, she wasn't going to encourage you necessarily to get into that industry, or the females that were there, it was tough. I believe that we are very fortunate now to be in the industry. There's so many ladies now that are coming in and shining so bright. And, it's not just because they're ladies, but they're, such talented humans like yourself, so it is, even with anything in life, it's a learning path. It's a learning, you make mistakes. And I mean, my goodness, I'd hate to even talk about my life, like, like how it had, like you said, the timeline, because really it's like up, it's down, it's up, it's down, it's like roundabout. But here we both are, talking together. And as I said, reading up on everything that you've done, I just find it incredible. Like, so after you graduated, you actually went to, was it Taiwan or did you go back to Hong Kong?
Well, it was Taiwan. When I moved to New York, my mom decided to go back to Asia because it's just easier for her. And so I went to Taiwan that summer just because I really didn't know what I wanted to do, and I had graduated. I didn't really have a job. I was just like, okay, maybe I'll just spend some time with my family and see how that goes. So interning at a lighting rigging company in Taiwan was actually one of the coolest periods of my life. Because again, I just kind of didn't know what I was doing, but I went into it with like a happy-go-lucky kind of attitude and was just like, cool, I don't know what's going on, but like, I'm here.
So was you a translator here as well? Was that like your main thing as a
translator? That was it. That was how it started because, like we had, I think it was a friend of my mom's. He was the, I don't know if it's CEO or no, I don't think he was a CEO. He was like just the boss at the time, the manager of the company. And they had a lot of like Western tours coming through Taiwan at the time, and they just needed someone that could speak English and speak Chinese and was willing to just be there to help out and help translate. So I'm like, okay, cool. Like, I can do that. I can speak both languages. I don't, like, and I get to watch free shows. I get to hang out and, and it worked out that way. And the more I kind of did it. So initially I did it for free because I was just so excited to be like asked to be somewhere and I could be useful, And then eventually I got really good at it and started, learning all the terminology and like just kind of figuring out the urgency of a load in and a load out and like how productions work and making friends. And it just kind of evolved from there.
Because, I just found, speaking, Chinese and to be the translator, that just blew my mind anyway, just because like, really, I've done a few tours and I think I mentioned this to you yesterday, when we arrive, in somewhere in Asia, really there is a huge barrier of language. Some of us, we can get by with a little bit of French, German or whatever, but really like there is a barrier.
There is.
So to be the translator for these production companies coming in, yes, you can speak the languages, but understanding how each production works, must have been a huge eye-opener to even see that. And like you said, the urgency, where do you send the local crew? And, and also having a nice manner, which I believe, you have a nice manner of putting it. You're not one of these that are going to shout.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. We're besties already.
Does this do that? Does it, like a FaceTime little hearts come up? Does it not do that? No, I guess not. Like,
I'll put. But yeah, learn the industry. I remember my very first load-in. The same thing. You're like, like, what on earth just happened there? So to be the really, I imagine, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but you'd have been pulled from so many directions as well. So to handle yourself in that environment, is awesome.
I think it really, because obviously in Asia the regulations are very different to how they are here. In the US you have the union, you have lots of like, how long you're allowed to work versus once you get into overtime, and then all these boundaries put in place to obviously protect crew and protect stagehands and protect the people that are working. But especially, years ago when I first started in Asia, it really was just you throw bodies at it or you just work until you get the job done. So the conditions were a lot of times less than ideal, but for me, it was the beginning of my career. So I didn't really know any better. Like I felt like now looking back on it, yes, I came from this comfortable life of privilege in this industry from the VIP side, obviously, and being part of the artist group to now I felt like almost like there was a bit of a chip on my shoulder. So like if I was going to step into this industry that was almost like a family industry to a certain degree, but like not having mommy to hold your hand anymore, it's kind of like, you need to get your shit together. You need to learn what you're doing and like figure out how to stand on your own 2 feet. So to me, now looking back on it, like, damn, some of those conditions were kind of insane. Like, like working in the summer when it's 100 degrees and there's no AC inside and you've got people up in the roof and, doing all of that and getting the rig together and preparing for the tour to come through. It was just like we'd be working round the clock and people, I had friends and colleagues that would be like taking naps on the truss up there that may or may not have been wearing a harness, or clipped in, and like lots of different things like that. Or like I used to really, really get excited about lunch boxes or dinner boxes because like in Taiwan, like you can, they order meals for us is never catered, but like they always come these like delicious cardboard little boxes filled with rice, and you get your vegetable, and sometimes you get a chicken leg or like a fried pork chop or something on there. And obviously like if you're eating it constantly for like months because you're doing so many things,
better than anything.
Like to me, I was like, oh my God, like what flavor am I gonna get today? You know? And then it was, and then we, you know, you'd sit outside on these little plastic little chairs, and like it just felt like, as cliched as it sounds, it felt like camaraderie, and it felt really nice for me to just be treated like everybody else, and to feel like I was very hungry for the industry and learning all of these things, and I just really, really enjoyed it. But it's now, like, I think really kind of almost like sanded me down a lot, you know, to then be able to enjoy 10 years later being on tour and being like, yeah, it really is, it's so different how things are done, but being able to kind of understand both sides of like,
but that's what I mean.
You know, we may not do things the way you do it, but it doesn't mean that it functions any less. Well, sometimes it doesn't function that great, but you know, it's just culturally a different thing, and like being open to that is very important.
And
even,
I think
maybe even more than speaking the language.
100%. We said, you know, like it's body language, it's how you come across to anybody.
With a smile.
Seriously, that is it. It's a smile. I mean, I shouldn't say I'm terrible. That's a silly thing. But I smile. I do. When I'm out on the street, I smile all the time. Because it's a stranger. I'm going to smile, you know, or, okay, he's slightly different, but, you know,
I think even just making an attempt to understand.
Yes.
I think goes a long way. You know, like you might not speak the same language, but like curiosity is also very obvious. Like if someone genuinely is open to trying to understand where you're coming from or what a situation is or what something is, like, you know, it's a very different kind of look that you give someone. It's a different kind of energy, I guess.
I do as well. I really am a big believer that we are all the same. You know, it doesn't matter about your title. You know, we are all human, and we should be kind. We should be loving. And I always remember, years and years ago, I used to work for Formula One, and we were like setting up all the vending areas, and I was constantly going through this one particular gate to one of the main grandstands. And every time I went through, it was the same boy, and bless him, he's on his feet. Like, at least I'm going around. He's in the same position all day, just standing there. So I would always, whenever I went by, I'd always give him, I'd always pick up a water from our canteen, or I'd pick up some chocolate, and I'd give it to him. I didn't want anything in return. I just saw him all the time, and, you know, we became just, you know, introduced each other.
Buddies in passing.
Yeah, that's it. Buddies in passing. And then it came to the race day, and something was urgently needed in the grandstand. So I'd actually sent one of the other staff round to sort it out, and they messaged, Sarah, I can't get in. They will not let me in. They will not let me in. And I was like, that's really strange. But anyway, so I was like, okay, I'm coming. So I came round, and it was the same. He went, oh, because of course you can. Like, not that was like, you know, but I also know this other person, the attitude they had, they're not always friendly. They don't always respect everybody. But then when they see like a big top dog, they're all like, hi.
Yeah.
Oh. And I'm like,
gotta love those people.
Oh, seriously. And sometimes they manage to get places where you think to yourself, surely, do you not see that they just sucked up to you?
They do. Like, I don't get it either. I truly, like, you know, I just believe that, I mean, this will probably get me, I don't know how much trouble this will get me in, but whatever. Like, if you give someone enough rope, they'll hang themselves with it. And, you know, like, I don't need to be the one that's tightening it, but, like, if you want the rope, here you go, you know, like, it kind of comes around, I think. Yeah, I believe that.
I used to believe it comes around, but I'm not so sure now. Really, I'm not so sure. I've, you know, over the years,
I do doubt sometimes. I wonder, I'm like, am I gonna get to have the satisfaction of seeing it, or like?
No, really. There's some people now. I'm like, how? Like, you know, even on an event or whatever from years ago, and I'm like, you're still in the industry. Everyone's still complaining about you, yet you still get the gigs. Like, and if I'm honest, your work isn't that good. Like, really, it's just that they managed to suck up to the right people at the right time. And really,
Do you think that it's also a little bit of, I mean, the industry is
It's not what,
suffering a little after the pandemic, you know?
Yes. I mean, well, take for instance me, I haven't even gone back into the industry. So, like,
Well, you're
I
kind of
mean,
just floating around, like,
yeah,
you're like, yeah.
touring stuff like that. Like, I never actually went back in. I mean, I love this what I do now. Like, I love it. I love working with Marcel, and like the main podcast, Geezers of Gear, but I can see a lot of the change, especially when we do have guests come on. You know, often we're talking about things, the changes. But I think in general, everybody's changed. You know, we've become more of a TV nation. You know, phones now. I mean, it drives me crazy to see, you know, go out and people are on their phones. You know, I make it a rule that my phone goes off at night. If I'm out, it goes off. You know, I may be having it for photos. And I even say to people, it's on airplane mode. Like, my attention is with you, because I actually stopped going out years ago. Actually, this was, I don't know whether this was just before, I think, COVID. And I'd go out and I'd see everybody just on their phones. And I was like, what has happened here? You know, really, we've just been sucked into this world of our friends are on Facebook, you know. But as far as the industry, I mean, a lot of people couldn't wait to get back, you know, and work. I knew that I was never going to be one of the first ones to get offered a job, because I didn't used to tour a lot. You know, I used to do maybe 2 tours, but only like a small one, like every year or whatever. And I knew I was never going to be one of the first to be asked to go on tour again. And I was okay with that. I wanted the people that really had like struggled, especially being on their own, you know, in apartments. And I believe you was on your own at this point, wasn't you? Yeah, you was. Yeah. So you was on your own and not. Yeah, I mean, what was it like being on your own there in an apartment building? That's what I
It was, I think I lost a bit of my sanity. Not that I had a whole lot to hold on to before that anyway, but honestly, going into the pandemic, like, I had finally gotten to a place in touring that I felt like I wasn't super worried anymore about when the next gig was coming. You know, like, I felt like I had paid my dues enough that I'm like, okay, I can chill a little bit. The tour one thing will roll into the next. I don't need to be as like terrified that I need to hustle so hard for the next thing. Like, I was okay, but strangely, I was also deeply unhappy, but I didn't really know why. And it actually took the pandemic and kind of hitting rock bottom in my 580 square foot apartment in New York City. Like, everyone had left. I could see like morgue trucks going by. There was a clinic down at the street that I could see from my window that always, you know, had the ambulances going in, and they had people standing. It was terrifying. And like, the only time that I would go maybe shopping for groceries once every like a week or 10 days. I tried to drag it out as long as I could. There was just a lot of fear in New York, and I couldn't go see my family. There was nobody in New York that could see me. So I was completely isolated for about 5 months.
Wow.
Before I was finally able to get a visa to go to Asia to visit my mom, who was literally losing her mind in Taiwan because she was so worried. Because all she was doing was just watching the news and being like, "Oh," and I'm like, "I'm okay."
Yeah.
And
yeah.
sorry,
No, go on. No. Carry on.
Well, and so it was actually when I came back from visiting my mom that I really, like, so much happened during lockdown and during the pandemic time. Like, I was, you know, there was a lot of fear, there was depression, you know, being away from family, breakdown of a long relationship was also in the middle of that. And it just, it was like a full reset. Like, everything kind of was destroyed before I was like, okay, why was I so unhappy at the time? You know, like, my career felt like it was moving sideways. I was doing all these big tours, but like, I had by the time I was involved with the tour, everything was done and ready to go. Like I was just kind of the executor of whatever task I was asked to do, whatever department that I was in. And it just didn't feel like, I was doing what would make me happy.
Yeah, well, you wasn't in the position at that time, and touring is very depressive. I'm going to say that.
It is,
really,
yeah.
like
But it's
all
also...
my life.
Sorry, go ahead.
No. I was like, all my life, I toured, whether all traveled and toured with work. And I really, you'd be high on a tour, but then knowing that, everyone's in the same hotel, you can be on your own, but that next door there's someone below and up, and you walk around the streets and you might say hi. You can hang out with people, you can be on your own, but you just know that you're with people. Then all of a sudden you come home. And you're like, okay, I'm one, on my own. I'm two, I'm exhausted. So I'd sleep for ages. And then there would be unless there was like something that you'd already planned, like another tour you'd got planned already. Then I was like, oh, when we're going to get more work. So then you've got that kind of on your mind. And then when you went eventually to see, I mean, sadly, not sadly, I moved to Crete and I wasn't part of my family. So I've been here on my own for a long, long time. So for me, when I went out to see friends, they would all be like, oh, Sarah, you've been to here. And then I tried to explain, yeah, but I didn't really. I saw a tour bus, an arena or a stadium, car park,
and a hotel.
Stadium, and a hotel, maybe.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, yeah, but you traveled this. And like nobody got me. So I was here in a world that nobody got me. I went on tour. And nobody got me because, well, why don't you tour all the time? And why do you go back to live on Crete? So nobody really understood me. So it is a very depressive time. Then, of course, when COVID happened, I completely understand you. But what I want to ask, because we've kind of after you spent the 4 years in Taiwan as a translator, you got involved, was it a Dutch company that brought you back to New York to then do all the tours?
Yes.
Yeah.
So when I was in Taiwan, there was a company called, it was a show called Sensation. So they worldwide, they do these, I don't know if you've heard of them, but they do these huge raves, like these amazing, beautiful parties. And so each of them, they have different themes, which it changes the design of the show. And then these different themed shows go to different countries all over the world. And so I first met them when they did an Asia tour and they came through Taiwan, and it was the show called Ocean of White. And it was the most stunning thing I think I had ever seen. They had these giant inflatable jellyfish. So everything is always white. But so there's this rotating DJ booth in the middle. And they have usually 6 or 7 pretty big DJs that would headline each of those different shows. So the show was really, really long. It's just an all-night party. And it just, this particular show, they had, because it's usually in the round. And it had DJ booth in the middle, and then it had these 2 runways filled with water on either side. So they had fountains that were timed with different things. So they have dancers that come out. There's all these big, gigantic, inflatable jellyfish all over the arena with lights and things like that. They had pyro. It was a full week load in and rehearsal and all of this stuff. And that culminated in this one big rave over the weekend. Wow. And I just thought to myself, this thing is so cool. I just I didn't know who designed it, who came up with the concept. I just thought this was the coolest thing. And I don't know if it's just at the time in Asia too. Asia, there's certain parts of Asia that are I would say maybe 20 to 30 years behind technologically in some places. Sorry, are we cutting out? Because my thing keeps freezing.
Yeah, mine just kept on freezing as well. But I think we're back. So I think we're back.
Oh, it sounds good now. Great, because I went off on a tangent. So anyways, so perfect. So we get back this beautiful show. And yeah, they just kind of like they loved working with me. I loved working with them. And then they were like, hey, we're planning on coming back next year for another Asia tour with this other show. Like, would you want to be our production coordinator, production assistant, and also like help translate and things like that locally next year? And so that was perfect. And I worked with them and it went well. And then the company was like, hey, we're thinking of touring in the US. Like, I think there could be really like an opportunity for you with us if you want to go back to New York. And at the time, I just,
That's amazing.
there was a little bit of I don't know how to describe it. It's not because like a stigma would be like a bad thing, but there was a little bit of like, like the locals kind of looked up to these big tours that came through, like these big productions. And like, sometimes you see like cool new tech and like really nicer gear and like, just everything is cool. Yeah. And so it's like just the gear is a little bit different and things like that. So there was always this kind of like this admiration of like the tours coming through and all these artists that are internationally known, these DJs that a lot of people also know. And so when I got the opportunity, it was like, oh, no brainer. Like, this is where, I inadvertently started in Asia because that was where I just, found myself at the time. Now, like, I know that I want to go back to the US to really like learn and hone my skills and my craft and like understand the rock and roll industry, so it was a very easy yes for me to go back. The funny thing is, actually, they just came to visit. They had a show in New York a couple days ago, and I just spent like most of the week hanging out with some of these friends that I kept in touch with for over 10 years. And that's like awesome. They're just like lifelong buddies and like people that like every time I see them, they just bring me so much joy because I don't know.
See how wonderful. I mean, I bet you see a lot of people coming through New York and, if you're there and you're not on tour, you get to go and hang out and be with them, because after the raves, you then, which basically, it wasn't with the same company. Who did you join, to be like production assistant? And you kind of took that route, didn't you, first of all?
I did. Yeah. So the rave, the whole like, dance scene didn't really make a whole lot of sense in like American arenas. So I think it was an experiment that was like amazing for when it happened. And then afterwards, I don't think that it made a lot of financial sense to do it that way, just because, arenas and the buildings and things like that. It just, you can't really have a big crazy party like that. So,
no.
Yeah, so I ended up, I was freelance this whole time anyway. And so I ended up hitting up a lot of some of my friends that I remember that kept in touch on the road, and did a lot of work actually with Live Nation during most of my touring days. So I did, I worked with VIP Nation a lot, another company called SLO at the time. It was also another VIP company. And really just like said yes as much as I could. I also did a lot of like local stuff, local shows, because the best thing about being in New York City is that there's always something happening at anywhere. So I just kind of really just kept myself as busy as I could that way. And once I started doing the VIP stuff, it really kind of, I was good at it, and it just became quite easy for one thing to keep moving to the next, even though I wasn't creative or really designing anything. But like doing VIP was actually great for me because it's almost like you have your own separate little production, right? Like you have to advance for the events that are happening in conjunction with the show, with the tour. And you have your own settlement at the end of the night. You have your own budget. You hire your own like assistants. And sometimes, if you work well with the production, you can ask if they'll throw you over a couple of stagehands that'll help you move your cases. But for the most part, you really have to like figure out how to get your shit done on your own, especially if it's like a big artist with like a big VIP program and like multiple moving pieces. So again, that was a great learning experience too. And then that kept me busy for like up until the pandemic, really.
And so at this point, when, you're loving touring, I mean, you've toured with some incredible bands. Did you have that, oh, I want to get into the creative side, or it didn't really, you were just going with the momentum of what you was doing at the time?
I think it was a little bit of both. I think I needed to make money. I was also caught up. I was young and I was really caught up in like, I have a cool job, and everyone thinks that I have a cool job. So, and I'm on tour with all these amazing artists that have, like when I tell my mom about it or when I go back to visit, like people know who these people are, and it has nothing to do with, like my mom or nepotism or anybody helping me. I'm like, I'm doing it all on my own. And so I was super excited about that. But, in the VIP programs, a lot of the things like they kind of give you freedom of like, well, how do you make it look cool? And how do you create this cool fan experience? So I was actually like making a lot of the decor. Like I made table mats. I made like cool little like sculptural things to put like tablescapes and things like that. So in that way, I kind of exercised my creative muscle. And so that always kept in the back of my mind, like, this is cool. And like, I like being crafty and like creating this and creating the experience. And I was just so busy that I don't think that I stopped to think too long about like, hey, who do I need to talk to kind of get into the creative side of things? I know that I looked at the show and always wondered kind of like, I wonder where that starts. Like, where did those concepts come from? Like, who are those people? But I never kind of followed the train of thought long enough to be like, maybe I should really like delve into that. Maybe I should really ask. I just kept thinking, okay, if I keep my head down and I keep touring and I keep working, eventually something has to, I don't know, a door has to open somewhere, or maybe, a
lot of the time things happen accidentally. It's who you meet that you've gone into this line. I mean, even when you think, from so far, we've gone from fashion designing to translator to raves to now touring, like that, but that's a progression. That is a huge progression, and that just keeping like all the way forward. And maybe who's to say that, you'd still be where you are now, but the pandemic actually really helped. So it helped you stop. It helped you kind of, let's say, reevaluate everything. But as you mentioned, I have a funny
story for you.
Yeah, tell me.
Well, so basically so I was working for the company SLO, VIP services for Janet Jackson. This was, I think, in like 2000, I want to say 2017. But so it was the State of the World tour, and her logo was like spray paint, kind of like very graffiti-like. And I just remember taking a little bit of the decor budget that I was given and going to Home Depot and buying like muslin drop cloth and like black spray paint and like just all types of random like shit. And the first day of the tour was like in the back by the loading dock, just like spraying all this stuff and cutting and like all the guys were watching me like, what the hell are you doing? And I remember I made, I think maybe like 20 table mats. They were just on muslin and they were sprayed on the edges. They looked really cool. And then they had her like the most iconic like song names and logo, some of the lyrics like sprayed onto the side that I had like painted on to kind of match the aesthetic of her tour art. And people were stealing these left and right. And I had to start making like announcements before all of the parties, like, guys, like, yes, open bar, have at it, enjoy the drinks. And like, the food is there for you guys, but please, please, please do not take the table decor home with you because I can't keep making them.
That was just an invitation to take it.
I used to have to I started pinning them down onto the black tablecloths of the cocktail tables, or I had to tell the security guards, guys, can you just make sure that people don't just try to pull these off and slip them into their goodie bags? These are not gifts. And I'm starting to spend a lot of money now and a lot of effort and time to keep trying to replace it because people keep walking away with it. And these are not for them, I mean, it was kind of it was nice. I mean, it was flattering that people thought that they wanted to take those, but it was, I became a bit of a table mat Nazi at one point.
So funny. Really, please do not take this. And then also they're like,
I was going around and was like, oh my God, that's missing. And then I'd have to go into the bathroom and start looking into people's I'm like, do not make me have to look in your goodie bags to make sure you guys are not stealing these. Yeah, no, seriously. I was getting okay, I can't keep making it at every single stop. So,
and it was during that tour that it obviously got cut short, wasn't it?
No. That one finished. That one was great. It was actually I was out on Billie Eilish for maybe a couple of shows, and then that was the one that I got sent home. That was when everything locked down and we were done. Yeah,
and I was in New York and kind of okay, but we all were in the same boat at the start, and it was kind of a novelty at the beginning. You could phone people and you'd all be home, but as you said, that whole seeing everything around you, and as I can't imagine it because I really was in the middle of nowhere. So I was in the middle of nowhere. I had a friend, and it was quite pleasurable, apart from what was going on. But for myself personally, in this house and lovely surroundings, but as I said, being in the city, I think I would have literally gone crazy. Really, I think I would have gone crazy.
I just never seen the city look the way it did. It was empty. Yeah. It was terrifying. It looked apocalyptic.
And it was everybody because I really don't know about what it was like there. Were you allowed to go out all the time, or only go out for an hour's walk like we were here? Or
initially when it was really, really bad, it was just dead silent. And most of the people in my building, a lot of them, if they had homes outside of the city, most of them had left. And then the only ones that were, still around, I mean, this image is funny, but I remember pulling the window open as far as it would go so that I could at least stick my head out and kind of look up and down and around to see if who out of my neighbors were there, because every day at 7:00 there was a whole clapping for the the workers and the people in the hospitals and things like that. So that was kind of the only time really in the day that you kind of see who was still in the immediate vicinity and around you, and you kind of wave at them and look. It was pretty crazy.
Yeah, that is. I mean, even just I mean, that's the I'm not gonna say excitement, but at 7:00 in the morning, you'd go out, clap, and look to see, oh, okay, you're still here. Yeah, you're still here.
Yeah.
And
no, it was that. And then I remember because my apartment's so small, but I kind of got into this weird routine of okay, once I wake up, leave my bedroom, close the door. I'm not going back in there until it's time for bed, because otherwise I needed to feel there was space and that there was some kind of separation to my day of okay, I'm just going to spend my time between the kitchen and the living room. And then, at the end of the day, I can go back to bed kind of thing. And I painted a lot too during the pandemic. I actually ended up painting, I think, 30 or 35 postcard size cityscapes of New York. Cause my dining room table just looks out onto to the city, and you can see the sunset. And so I just, every night I painted it, and I just put it in they fit in regular envelopes, and I just mailed them out to some friends, and it was a thing to just keep my brain occupied, and it was nice to get a text when people received it, and it was just greetings from New York, all good here for now. Thinking of you.
So cool. I mean, I started doing black and white like illusional, like optical illusional paintings and drawings. And I loved it, but I got obsessed. Like I would sit there all night just painting and drawing all of these. And then I got bored with like what I was doing can't remember how, anyway. And all of a sudden I was like looking at these white walls. Now bear in mind I rent from an old lady, a Greek lady. And I was looking at the walls and I was like, yeah, I'm going to paint them. So I end up painting all the walls like black and white, and then another one red and white.
You did your like art on a big scale like that on the walls?
On the walls.
That's
and
so
I was
cool.
like, yeah, it was amazing. Like the feeling to do it on these walls were like, I've never done anything like that before. And so I painted all this stuff, and then I was like, oh, what happens if she comes into the house? I'm like, anyway, she actually didn't come in for ages, but when she did come in, I said, don't worry, when I leave, I'll paint it all over white. And I'm thinking, I don't know if I can actually get rid of that. That's such a strong like red and like black. Anyway, I managed to get rid of it. It was such a incredible feeling to be creative and artistic, and like
I think it was a release, right? Some kind of like
goodness, really like. And I know we said it was a reset, but really to put yourself in that feeling of expressing yourself through painting, and it's really helped me. I mean, I was even saying to my husband, like, I miss it. Like, I mean, I started doing a couple more the other day, but work now, I
feel like life doesn't allow you to get to that point the way we did in the pandemic, because there was definitely, at least for me, a certain amount of like sitting with how uncomfortable you felt. Like there was a tipping point of like, I think I'm actually going to lose my mind, or like hope and despair, and like, of like, what if this doesn't get better? What if I have to start all over in a new career? I need to find my own direction again, or what if all these horrible possibilities happen, right? And I'm lonely, I'm uncomfortable, I'm scared, I don't know what to do, I'm lost, like, but you just had so much time to just sit in this, that like finally I think that energy had to have some kind of a release. And for some people like you and me, like it came out in being creative, or painting, or drawing, or for some people making bread or making cool things. I don't know, but
it was true. There was lots of people doing like different things. Me as well. I started walking. Walking was my thing, and I mean, really, because there's hills, there's mountains, there's everything. Nobody stopped us from walking, because like there was nobody there. And really, by the time like from the whole like 3-year period from start to finish, when you can say COVID was over, I mean, really, I walked round the whole island. I think I can't remember how many kilometers had I walked. Oh, I've really forgotten how many now. I should have to look it up. But like thousands of kilometers walking everywhere. And that was my release as well. Now, trying to find that time to go on a beautiful walk. I was walking 7 hours a day, because I had time. All I had was time. Then I'd get home.
Been in the best shape of your life.
Oh, seriously. I'm like 2 stone heavier now. Like really, like I hate it. And even that, because now what do? I sit here, I go for like an hour's walk, which is nothing, in the mornings. But so, yeah, I really was. I was go back a couple of years.
It's crazy that it was 4 years ago now, the worst of it. But I think for me, it was like that the painting was therapeutic, and also sending it out. Because I'd never done that before. Like, I think, what I do really, I've always been a very private person, and I've really been quite reclusive as a child, and really kept to myself. And so to finally then like send my art out as a gift to people and kind of put myself out there in a way, because art is very vulnerable, like I just, but to like send it out to so many people, and just as sort of like a little love, in the mail, that was kind of like the beginning of me feeling like, okay, maybe this is where I need to start stepping out of my own comfort zone, and really embracing being more seen or exposing myself a little bit more if I do want to take the next step into figuring out what it is that I want to do with my life, you know, or being creative.
So I believe it was during this time, and you'll have to when at what point, but it was you saw a job advert. I'm going to call it an advert. Is
It
that
was a posting, on LinkedIn.
On LinkedIn, and it was Nick Whitehouse from Fireplay. So yeah, tell me. I mean, surely that was a sign. That's
I mean, the funny thing was, I felt like I was so on paper so underqualified for it, but it was such an. I think I have a screenshot of the posting because it felt like it was written for me. Because he even specifically said at the bottom that it was not a lighting post for like a lighting job. It wasn't a technical posting. It was for someone that wanted to be like a producer that wanted to learn and was a team player and was willing to like, you know, get their hands dirty and like really like be mentored and just be a creative. And I was just like,
that's me.
Oh my gosh, like where do I sign up? And I had not wanted something, and I don't even know, does this sentence sound weird to you? I had not wanted something. Is that grammatically correct?
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Anyway, it had been years.
Yeah.
I had never wanted something so badly in a very long time. Like, this was something that I was like, they have to hire me. Like, there is no room for them to hire somebody else. Like, I ended up going.
You believe it in your. I know this sounds stupid. Like, if I believe in something and I really want it to happen, I'm going to sound all like hippie now.
Like
but
manifesting?
Like, it can happen. Like, I really believe that. So with you really, really, it wasn't that you wanted it. It was just you felt that this was you. That description, that's me, you know.
And I felt like I will put my absolute best. And I didn't, you know, he wanted a creative pitch. He was like, explain to me in the most creative way that you could think of how, why you think you would be good for this job. And so I think this posting was like in April or something. And in my mind, I'm like, shit, you know, like, I bet like all the people applying for this are going to be like building 3D models and like sending crazy things. And I'm like, what skills do I have? You know? So I actually had to really dig through old archival things, to,
sit down at Jackson Mats.
I did. I had some pictures of those in there, but like, there was also a moment when I looked at that too, because I had always, my background and my mom and like my upbringing I never, up until that point, only few very like close people really knew about the situation. But like if I was on tour or whatever, I didn't really talk about it. Like people would hear about it, they'd ask and I'd be like, yeah, but I'd kind of skim over it in passing. Like I never really embraced it. Yeah, because I just felt like, well, what my background has no bearing on the work that I have to do on tour or how I need to be treated. So like, yeah, like it's like asking if like if your mom and dad work in a restaurant or whatever, you know, it's just kind of like, yeah, they do. She does. She's a singer. Right. Cool. Let's move on. You know?
Exactly. Yeah.
And so with applying for this Fireplay job, I felt like there was no way I would be doing myself a disservice, and I probably wouldn't have gotten the job if I didn't fully put myself out there and like showed him everything that I had and why I was the perfect person for the job, which was I understood what it was like for both the artist and the production crew. Like I had done costumes and designed and all this work with my mom, and I've also done all this design work and like creative stuff also on tour. While not in like a designing a show kind of portfolio, but like these are all of my qualifications. And it was really, really uncomfortable. I was very nervous, but I made a video explaining everything and sending him footage and images and sketches and drawings and speaking to things that I had never really talked to anybody about. And well, now 3 years later, I've been working for him. So.
Yeah, but it's like, it's incredible. I mean, we actually had Nick on the podcast a couple of months, I think it must be about 3 or 4 months ago now. But he's awesome, like really. And for you, I mean, even for me, like to hear your story or to read your story, first of all, like and to, as I said, it's a bit of, this podcast, like, it's like you just have to stalk everybody. But I was so excited to meet you, but I told Marcel, I was like, you were born in the industry, but you've done it on your own. You haven't said mum, and I didn't want to talk about your mum on here, but obviously it is you. That's you growing up to now. And, to be given the opportunity, obviously Nick said, yes, you are the person, because of this amazing background that you've built yourself, and the independence and what you've come through. So what have you been working on recently?
Well, and I think the background now, also having worked with Nick for the last 3 years, I feel like I treat and I think of every artist that I work with like family. Yeah. Like, it's almost like they're all like my mom. Like, obviously not, but like I would treat them as if they were my mom. Like, how do I protect them on stage? But how do I also give them everything that they want? How do I make them look the best that they could possibly look? Like, how can I make it amazing for their fans? How can I make sure that, like, they sound great, they feel great, and that this is going to be the best tour, best performance for them? And so, like, I've been really lucky the last few years. Like, I got to work with Demi Lovato. I worked with Romeo Santos, and touched on, like, and each of these shows were also different. Like, with Demi, it was a small theater tour, but she was in this, like, moving away from pop and going into more of, like, the rock, kind of, like, really, like, raw and hard and, like, just really real kind of vibe. And then going into like a stadium tour for Romeo Santos for the Latin music, and it was like a whole different beast. But it was so amazing because nothing was time coded. But like, and then the tour started in South America, so like we had to do multiple iterations of the design because then it was coming back into stadiums and arenas in the United States. So we're like, okay, well, how do we make this monstrosity be able to move, but like still give him a show where he can feel like he's fluid and free and can like start and stop whenever he wants to. And I just freaking love Latin music anyway, so that also worked out great for me. And then, this summer getting to work with Alanis Morissette, who is just the kindest, and like she's so gracious and involved in everything. And she just, I think of my mom, and even my mom was not like this, but like she was just so appreciative of like all the work that you did for her. And I had the most contact with her, like the most direct line of contact. Like, we had each other's phone numbers. She was able to like come and directly tell me what she wanted. Working with Nate Cromwell, who's been her LD for a really long time, like he was fantastic, and he really allowed us to communicate. Sometimes you're in certain camps where it's like everybody's trying to like gatekeep the artist and like management and things like that. And just like, I'm like, you guys, like, magic happens when like all the lines of communication open, So like with Alanis, it was just so nice because she was like, oh my God, I love this, or let's do this. Well, what do you think about that? And it was so refreshing to be able to like really just have human conversations with somebody and like really understand what it was that they wanted and give them that.
And also had to have your artisticness again now come out and shine, without
and have it be appreciated.
Yeah, and how to be appreciated, which is just, I mean, really, again, I was looking at the photos and looking back at the tour, like what you did was just incredible, like really. So I suppose do you know what? I hate the word happy. It's just something that, it's just a word I don't like. But do you now feel that you're happy? No. Do you feel that you're now on the path? So you're on a break. So right now you're on a little break, but you're sort of like implants. Have you just finished Heart Radio? Was it Heart Radio?
Yeah. So we were working with iHeartRadio. We designed a couple of their festivals. So we did the iHeart Country in May, and then we also just finished iHeart Fiesta Latina, which is their Latin festival, last month. And that one was fantastic too, because again, like I said, I really love Latin music. And so I remember really like asking for this gig, because I was like, hey, can I get a shot at it? You know, and we did pretty good on the country. So like, I'd really, really love to see if we could do something amazing for the Fiesta Latina. And they let me give it a shot, shoot my shot. So that was a really nice one. And then now, since we're getting into the holidays, this is kind of like my, just chill a little bit, gonna visit my family, usually around January, February, for like Chinese New Year's. I like to spend a little bit of an extended period of time with my mom, and then kind of hit the ground running when I come back. So, yeah.
But I love that, because again, everyone needs to like reset, but now that resetting without being in a quarantine, so you can appreciate your lovely apartment in New York. You can appreciate the street around and the time, and look forward to a lovely Christmas. I suppose actually it's Thanksgiving festival, isn't it?
It is. Yes. Yeah. Wow, you're good.
Only because I booked Marcel a podcast, and he was like, I can't make that, and I was like, why? He was like, it's Thanksgiving. Oh, sorry. So yes,
my favorite was to travel Thanksgiving to the UK, because there's no Thanksgiving in the UK, so it's like, cool, I get to go and hang out.
Yeah, exactly. So that's, obviously you've got Thanksgiving, then there's Christmas, and then the Chinese New Year. So you've got a nice time to really like reset, recharge, and like coming into like, let's say when you come back to things, have you got anything on the horizon at the moment, or is there just like anything you can say, or is it just like, yeah?
No, there's always tons of stuff like in the works, but like nothing that's super solid, and I'm kind of just open to whatever comes up, and something Amazing. Always seems to come up. So
that is the most incredible attitude. I think you're one of the first people to ever like really be like, no, I know something will always turn up, because it does. Like really, it does. It's just your little demon brain, not yours, like at mine.
Yeah.
You always go like, oh, but what about if I don't get any work? Oh, what about this? What about that? So the time you do have off,
trust me, you're getting me on a good day. That I do think that that does happen, and I like sit there and I like overthink, and I'm like, oh my god. But you got me good today. It's nice and early. It's a nice morning. There's no construction jackhammering outside my window, so I'm optimistic today.
Well, I have to say that I'm so happy you wanted to come on the podcast. I was so thrilled when I got your little...
you invited me.
Yeah, as I said, this is
my first podcast experience.
Yeah, well, I hope you've enjoyed it.
I did.
But no, I think it's so for your first podcast, I really hope you've enjoyed it. And as I said, I just loved meeting you. And it's a shame you're not going to be at LDI next week.
I know, I'm sad too, but I'm sure we'll see each other at some point soon. That's so funny. It's your first one, and like,
I know my first LDI, and I'm so looking forward to this.
I don't know if you drink, but be ready to drink.
Yeah, that's what everyone's like. Marcel's like, oh, well, we've actually got a hotel right next to the conference, because like Marcel's because I don't go out and drink anymore, and I'm like, okay, and then also I speak to somebody else, and they're like, what's the I can't remember what the saying is now. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
Stays in Vegas.
Yeah, I was like, oh my god, like 1 minute I'm going there to be, let's say, I don't want to say respectable. I'm going there to be a good person, no drinking and this and that.
no.
And, And then all of a sudden on the next breath, so I was like, no way. Like, you'll have a Bloody Mary at like 10 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Like, what?
It's just because like everything ends up, it's like, yeah, like you can go into the room where all the vendors are set up. But like after a while, it's just everyone ends up doing business back at the bars and anyway, and like especially like all the not the people who matter, but it's like everyone ends up in Resorts World at the new Circle Bar there.
Yeah.
So like you're just planned to be there for hours and hours and hours, drinking and drinking and drinking.
Okay, I better get in practice now.
Go to the conference, walk around, and then go to dinner, schmooze at dinner, and then come back, and then everybody ends up there, and then just for like the next 3-4 days.
So really, the actual conference going in is, that's it's just a small part to the whole 3-day. Yeah. I did go to. I went to
bring
Plaza.
Like liquid IV and stuff that's gonna like save your liver.
Goodness.
But I'm a terrible drinker, so that's why I need those things.
Do you know what? Now, like, really, I have the worst hangovers. Even if it's like a few glasses, loads of glasses, whatever glasses, like I wake up and really, I mean, actually during the COVID part, I actually had 1.5 years where I didn't drink any alcohol whatsoever. So really, I was like super fit, super healthy, complete detox of the body, painting and walking. Now I'll have a glass of wine, more, whatever. And the next morning I'm like,
you feel
can't function. Oh, really. And if I have more, say I say we have a bottle of wine, and it turns into, more of an all night thing. Because here nobody goes out to 11. And I'm like, something like that happens. The next day I'm like, no, you're not getting anything out of me today. Like, like there's nothing. And then my husband's
7-hour walk for me today.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, and everyone says to me, just go out, walk and exercise. I'm like, my brain says no. It's like, that's it. So that's why I don't like, what do they say? All or nothing. That's what I am. All or nothing.
I'm kind of like that too. It's amazing how like even a couple of drinks now, like the worst thing is the sleep. Like if I'm a little bit drunk, I wake up after like a couple of hours, like I'm exhausted. I pass out, and then a couple of hours later, I wake up feeling like absolute dog shit.
Yep.
It's hard to go back to sleep, and then I wake up with a hangover the next morning anyway. So I'm just like, is it worth it? But like, it kind of sucks to not also. So
I have to really change my mind of like, if I do go out in the evenings, and I have to be like, okay, so tomorrow's a write-off. Okay? Tomorrow's, we're not going anywhere adventures. We're not doing this. We're not doing that. I said, but the hours we're using at nighttime is then my sleep time in the day, to have a lie-in. So I kind of like switch it and turn it positive for me. Whether that's insane, I don't know. But anyway. So when I'm at Las Vegas, when I'm at the Circle Bar, I will raise a glass to you. And
yes, please.
I will.
Please. I think depending on when you're there, actually Nick might be there.
Oh, is he? Oh, I'll have to reach out to him because I know it'll be nice to meet him.
You should reach out to him because he's in the UK now because he's on Culture Club, so he'll be there. I think his last show is on the 6th or the 7th, and they're rushing back to LDI.
Oh, amazing! Oh, I'll drop him an email because I know Marcel would love to.
I don't know what days you're going to be there, but like there might be overlap.
I'm actually there for a long time, so I was like, I don't get off the island a lot, so I'm actually in Vegas for 10 days.
Oh, when
I get there like on the 5th, and then I leave on the 15th.
Okay. Then I think you definitely will be there the same time he is. So you guys should definitely. He'll be drinking, and he'll.
Okay. Yes, for sure. I'll drop him an email, and please stay in touch. And if you're ever this side of the water, let me know. And yeah, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you
yeah,
so
thank
much
you.
for having me on there. It's been the last few days, the last few months, truly, and obviously, like, you don't have to put this in the podcast, but it's been really nice, like, to feel like I can tell a bit of my story in my own words, and that it seems to be like interesting to people. And for me, I've never really, like, I just don't do that very often, and so it's been really, like, therapeutic in a way. Like, even having a feature in PLSN and someone willing to, like, put that in print and, like, things like that. It's very nice,
You deserve it.
and it's very appreciated. So thank you.
No, you do. Everything you've achieved, everything, and this is only the beginning, of your next
I really
event.
hope it
No,
still
I know
feels
it.
like an uphill battle all the time, but
I think life is sometimes that, but you've got an amazing attitude. You're an amazing person, and yeah, just keep being you, and life will work itself out.
thank
Bye.
you. Have a good day.